All right, so for today's video, as promised in my shorts, I made a quick little video about a do-it-yourself Euro mount for a deer skull that is under about $50 to do yourself. So here we go. So here is one of my Euro skulls that I did myself. The first thing you're going to want to do when you actually harvest the animal is get the lower jaw off first. When the animal starts to get rigor mortis, you'll have a really hard time getting that lower jaw off. So those are going to be one of the first things you want to do when you're taking off the hide off the skull, stripping it down, and getting it ready to take home. So what you're going to want to do when you get this home, after you've gotten most of the flesh stripped off of it, the eyes out, you're going to want to go into the back where the brain meets the spine. There's a big opening there. Take a long flathead screwdriver, stick it in there, and break the brain apart into mush. So when you go to boil it, you're not going to have one hard piece that is not going to be easy to get out. It's going to be more little pieces, kind of like cottage cheese, ground beef almost, so you'll be able to get out. So what you do is you're going to want to suspend your skull from, somewhere around here on the antlers. All you really need is a large pot like you deep fry a turkey in, and the burner as well. Fill it with water, and then you're going to want to boil it, not super high heat, but boil it to where it's, like a simmer. And you're going to want to put Dawn Platinum dish soap into that water. It doesn't take a lot, but it's going to pull the oil out of the skull and the bone itself. And that way you'll be able to bleach the skull better. When it comes to bleaching the skull, I use Platinum Blonde hair dye, mix it up until, it's like a cake batter, and then you just basically glaze it over the entire skull after you've taken it out of the boiling water. Some people pressure wash it to get it clean. Some people are more meticulous and, have other methods. We pressure washed it. I wrap wire around this nasal bridge here so that it doesn't expand really, really far while it's boiling, because the bone will get kind of soft. That's why you don't do it at a super high temperature. It kind of helps mitigate any bone getting broken or falling apart. But after you boil it, pull it out, let it dry, wipe it down, and then you're going to cake it over with the Platinum Blonde hair dye. I don't do it in certain areas. I like to kind of have like a little bit of a brown look in it. Kind of gives it like an older classic look to it. I still have some of the residue. That's basically the oil that got pulled out of the bone when it was boiling. You just got to brush it off with a toothbrush, but I never did. So this back piece here, the actual mounting piece, it's just a piece of wood. You can go to Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Home Depot. They're about $5. And then I took a torch, and then I torched my own burning design into it, and then covered it in linseed oil. When you go to the back of the skull, we took this metal bracket, bent it at the right angle, and it actually bolts down inside the skull. So you take a drill your hole. I think it's a 1/4 inch bolt, and then you can just bolt it right down to that and get the angle that you want it to hang at. So overall, when it's on the wall, it hangs about like that. So to kind of recap on the process, it's when you harvest the animal, strip all the flesh off the head, the eyeballs out, break up the brain with a screwdriver. When you get it home, then you're gonna suspend it so that just the skull is submerged in the boiling water. Little bit of Dawn dish soap in there, pull all the oil out of the skull. Make sure you wrap that nose with wire. Backtracking, make sure we get the lower jaw off first, because they get locked in there and they're super hard to get off. So once you've done all that, you got it submerged in the water. Boil it until the flesh is like cooked meat. It's easy to come off. You can just pick it off. You can pressure wash it off. Just don't get super close because you're gonna blow it apart. From then you're gonna wait for it to dry. Once it's dry, you can apply your bleach, Platinum Blonde, the bleach mix. It turns into like Play-Doh almost, a little bit runnier. cover what you want on the skull, let it sit for a couple hours, and it's going to bleach that skull up. Break it all off, scrub it off with a brush. Then you can find what piece of wood you want to use for your mount. We got a single flat bar piece of metal stock. I think it's a 1/2 inch wide by an 1/8 inch thick. Bent it ourselves, drilled 2 holes, screwed it into the base, drilled the hole into the skull of the deer, bolted it on there, right at the back where the spine comes in. Made sure we liked the angle, and then got our little hanger fastener to hang it on the wall on a normal picture frame hanger. It turned out pretty good. I mean, you're not spending much money that way. If you already have a pressure washer and the pot to boil it in, if you don't, you can find them. But overall, this is a quick way to do a Euro mount that looks pretty good. You can kind of put your own flair on it. If you like wood burning, you got a torch, some linseed oil. Your kids can do some wood burning with a soldering gun if you have one. You know, there's a lot that you can do with it, and you're not spending a ton of money at a taxidermist to have a Euro mount made when it's a super simple process. You can go another step further when you're, after you've harvested the animal, you can put the skull, you can bury it in the dirt. If you have a lot of animals around that are going to dig it up, it could be a little sketchy, but we put it in the ground for about 2 weeks. We put the skull in the ground, covered it with a kiddie pool, those little blue swimming pools, threw a tarp over it and some rocks, and we let it sit. The dirt really helps break up that flesh, helps deteriorate it. It stinks, I'm not going to lie, it's terrible, but then we pulled it out and boiled it and got a good product out of the end. So if that's the way you want to go, it's a quick, easy way to do it and have it turn out good. And I apologize for my daughter in the background. She's a wild animal.